In today's fast-paced world, we often take numbers for granted. We glance at the time, check the price tag, or count down the days until an event, but rarely do we stop to consider the underlying significance of numbers that influence our lives on a deeper level. From ancient civilizations to modern psychology, numbers have held a special place in human consciousness, not just as mathematical tools, but as symbols, representations, and forces that shape our reality. Historically, numbers have been seen as a gateway to understanding the world. One of the earliest figures to recognize the hidden power of numbers was Pythagoras, a philosopher and mathematician from ancient Greece. Pythagoras believed that the universe was structured in mathematical harmony, and that numbers were the language of nature itself. In his view, everything from the movement of the stars to the growth of plants was governed by numerical principles. The idea that numbers could be the key to understanding the divine and natural world was revolutionary. To Pythagoras, numbers weren't just abstract figures, they were the building blocks of existence. Pythagoras' theories on numbers extended beyond mere arithmetic. He suggested that each number had its own spiritual significance, reflecting the deeper truths of the universe. For example, he considered the number 1 to represent unity and the origin of all things, while the number 2 symbolized balance and duality. This thinking laid the groundwork for what would later evolve into numerology, a practice that connects numbers with personal characteristics and life events. Through numerology, people could uncover hidden patterns in their lives, linking their birth dates, names, and numbers to understand their strengths, weaknesses, and destiny. While Pythagoras was one of the earliest thinkers to delve into the mysticism of numbers, his ideas were just the beginning. Across different cultures and time periods, numbers have continued to play an influential role in shaping human beliefs. Ancient Egyptians, Greeks, and Mesopotamians all imbued numbers with symbolic meaning, often associating them with the divine. This cross-cultural reverence for numbers shows how, throughout history, people have sought to understand the universe through the lens of mathematics. The psychological power of numbers. As we continue to explore the relationship between humans and numbers, we begin to realize that numbers are more than just a tool for calculation. They are powerful, psychological triggers. In modern psychology, researchers have found that numbers can shape our perceptions, decision-making, and behavior in surprising ways. For instance, the number 7 is often considered lucky, while 13 is linked to superstition and bad luck. These associations influence how we feel about numbers, and even affect our choices. The number 7 is universally seen as a positive number, and this is not just a random perception. Studies show that people often view the number 7 as more harmonious and balanced compared to other numbers, which can affect their decision-making process. Moreover, numbers can be linked to our emotions and sense of self-worth. For example, the age we reach in life often plays a significant role in how we perceive our personal progress or milestones. Turning 30 is a major milestone for many, marking the end of youthful years and the beginning of adulthood. Similarly, the numbers associated with our finances, such as a salary or savings, can heavily impact our self-esteem and sense of security. These numerical associations influence how we see ourselves and interact with the world. The phenomenon of round numbers is another psychological aspect that shows how numbers shape our experiences. We often assign value and significance to round numbers, such as $100,000 or $10,000 steps. These numbers feel more complete and satisfying than irregular ones, which has a strong impact on consumer behavior and motivation. For instance, when someone hits the 10,000 step mark on their fitness tracker, it feels like an achievement, even though the number itself may not hold any inherent significance. This psychological effect is often used by marketers who know that people are more likely to respond to round numbers in advertising and promotions. The role of numbers in shaping cultures and beliefs. Numbers have long held symbolic significance in cultures across the world, influencing everything from religious practices to daily life. Ancient cultures such as the Babylonians, Greeks, and Egyptians all regarded numbers as sacred. These cultures believed that numbers had the ability to unlock the secrets of the universe and could explain the deeper truths of existence. For the Egyptians, the number 3 held special significance. It was believed to represent balance, unity, and completion. This belief in the power of the number 3 is evident in their architecture, art, and religious practices, where the number frequently appeared in sacred symbols and structures. For example, the pyramids of Giza were designed to reflect the geometric principles of the number 3, symbolizing harmony and connection between the earth and the divine. This deep connection between numbers and spiritual life can be seen throughout history and continues to shape our understanding of the cosmos. In ancient Greece, Pythagoras' view of numbers as divine and harmonious greatly influenced philosophical and mathematical thinking. Pythagoras and his followers believed that the study of numbers could reveal not just mathematical truths, but also the very essence of existence. He famously said, "All is number." This concept became the foundation of Pythagoreanism, which linked numbers to the nature of the universe, music, and even the soul. The ancient Greek belief that the cosmos was a reflection of numerical harmony laid the groundwork for later developments in science, geometry, and spirituality. Numbers and their spiritual connections. The association between numbers and spirituality didn't end with the Greeks. In Hebrew Kabbalah, for instance, gematria is a system that assigns numerical values to letters in the Hebrew alphabet, allowing scholars to find hidden meanings in sacred texts. This ancient practice suggests that numbers hold the key to unlocking deeper layers of spiritual wisdom. By analyzing words and phrases through the lens of numerology, Kabbalists sought to uncover divine secrets encoded within the language itself. Similarly, in Chinese culture, the symbolism of numbers carries deep significance. The number 8, for example, is considered highly auspicious, symbolizing prosperity and good fortune. This belief is so ingrained that people often go to great lengths to incorporate the number 8 into their lives, from choosing phone numbers and license plates to selecting dates for significant events. The number 4, conversely, is viewed with trepidation because its pronunciation in Mandarin sounds similar to the word for death, making it an unlucky number in Chinese culture. These numerical superstitions are rooted in the belief that numbers directly influence fate and destiny, shaping how individuals approach life's challenges. The impact of numbers on spirituality extends beyond religious practices. In many cultures, the symbolic meaning of numbers is tied to the idea that they connect humans to the divine, helping them understand their place in the universe. Whether through sacred rituals, geometric designs, or simply the way numbers are woven into daily life, the significance of numbers transcends their practical uses. The influence of numbers on modern life. In the modern world, we may not always associate numbers with divine meaning or spiritual enlightenment, but they still shape our lives in ways we often don't recognize. The psychology of numbers continues to influence how we make decisions, how we perceive our achievements, and how we assess the world around us. For instance, in advertising, marketers often rely on round numbers like $19 or $49.99, because research has shown that these numbers have a psychological appeal. People perceive prices ending in 9.99 as significantly lower than those that round up to the nearest dollar, even though the difference is only a cent. This pricing strategy plays on the human tendency to perceive slightly lower numbers as better value. Similarly, social media platforms use numbers to influence our behavior. We are obsessed with followers, likes, and engagement numbers, equating them with personal validation and success. When our social media metrics rise, we feel more validated and empowered, while a decrease can lead to feelings of inadequacy and self-doubt. These numbers have become powerful symbols of self-worth, even though they are completely arbitrary and often tied to the shifting whims of online culture. In finance, numbers continue to dictate much of our lives, from the interest rates on loans to the stock market fluctuations that affect the global economy. These numerical forces shape our financial decisions, influence our perception of wealth, and even contribute to our anxieties about money and security. Yet, despite their dominance in our lives, numbers rarely come with the emotional or spiritual weight they once carried in ancient cultures. While ancient civilizations viewed numbers as a bridge to the divine, today's society uses them more pragmatically. But that doesn't mean their influence has diminished. If anything, it has grown stronger, weaving itself into every aspect of our lives, from our finances to our social interactions. Understanding how numbers shape our reality. In a world driven by data, it's easy to think of numbers as mere facts, things to be calculated, recorded, and analyzed. But numbers are not just a reflection of reality. They actively shape how we perceive the world and make decisions. Whether we realize it or not, our relationship with numbers influences everything from our purchasing choices to our emotional responses. Consider how sales and discounts work in retail. The number 50% off instantly triggers a sense of urgency and excitement, even if the original price of an item was inflated just to make the discount appear more significant. The manipulation of numbers in marketing is not random. It's based on psychological principles that tap into our deep-seated need for savings, success, and instant gratification. Similarly, the price of an item, even if it's just a few cents lower or higher than the competition, can cause us to perceive its value differently. Price perception, for example, is highly influenced by how numbers are presented. A price tag marked $9.99 feels significantly less expensive than one marked $10, even though the difference is marginal. This subtle psychological effect has been coined the left-digit effect, which demonstrates that we perceive numbers that end in 99 as much lower than the nearest whole number. Retailers have mastered this technique, and it influences millions of consumer choices every day, even though most people are unaware of its power. The role of numbers in shaping our identity. Numbers do more than influence the items we buy. They also shape our sense of identity and self-worth. Consider the numbers that dominate our lives: age, weight, income, and followers. We often assign meaning to these numbers, using them as markers of success or failure. In the modern era, social media metrics like likes, shares, and followers have become the most visible signs of our personal validation. Many people find themselves looking at the number of followers they have on Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter as a reflection of their self-worth. When the number of followers goes up, so does their confidence. However, when the numbers dip, so does their mood. This growing reliance on numbers for emotional validation is particularly evident in younger generations, where social media presence often equates to social status and even job opportunities. The number of likes on a post can have a profound psychological impact, influencing the way individuals feel about themselves and their achievements. For some, numbers tied to personal achievements such as grades, salary, or performance metrics serve as a measure of success. The pressure to perform to certain numerical standards has led many to associate their value with the results of numbers that are not truly representative of their abilities or worth. The belief that a high salary or top grades equals happiness and success can distort the pursuit of personal satisfaction and well-being, turning people into number chasers rather than self-fulfilling individuals. Numbers and the illusion of control. In addition to shaping our personal identities, numbers also give us a sense of control over our lives. When we break down our goals into measurable numbers, we feel more empowered. Whether it's the number of steps we take each day, the amount of money we save, or the calories we burn, numbers act as benchmarks for success. These quantifiable goals give us something to measure, track, and improve. But this focus on measurable outcomes can also create an illusion of control, when in reality, life is far more unpredictable and fluid than a set of numbers can ever fully capture. Take, for example, the obsession with health and fitness metrics. People measure their progress using numbers, calories, steps, weight, and more. These numbers are meant to provide a clear path to improvement and self-discipline. But sometimes, the overemphasis on achieving specific numerical goals can actually be counterproductive. People may end up pushing themselves too hard to reach an arbitrary target, neglecting their physical or mental health in the process. The pursuit of a number, whether it's the perfect body, the right income, or the ideal relationship status, can create unnecessary stress and dissatisfaction. This illusion of control is reinforced by technology. Wearables and apps now track every step we take, every heartbeat, every minute of sleep. These devices provide us with precise data on our bodies, giving us a false sense that if we just manage these numbers, we can optimize our health, career, and happiness. But real life isn't always that predictable. People can become obsessed with the numbers, ignoring the fact that life's richest moments aren't always quantifiable. Happiness, connection, and contentment can't always be reduced to numbers, and yet, we keep measuring them anyway. The power of numbers in marketing and consumer behavior. In the world of marketing, numbers are not just tools. They are psychological weapons used to manipulate consumer behavior. From sales prices to advertising strategies, numbers are carefully crafted to trigger specific emotional responses in consumers. One of the most common techniques is pricing strategies. Consider the frequent use of prices ending in 99. This pricing technique is more than just a marketing gimmick. It's rooted in human psychology. Researchers have found that when consumers see a price like $9.99, they perceive it as significantly lower than a price of $10, even though the difference is only 1 cent. This subtle psychological effect, known as price anchoring, makes consumers feel like they are getting a deal, even when the actual savings are minimal. The left-digit effect is another example of how marketers use numbers to influence our purchasing decisions. A price like $4.99 feels much more affordable than $5, even though the difference is negligible. Discounts and sales further capitalize on this psychological effect. When we see a 50% off sign, we often feel an overwhelming urge to buy, regardless of whether we actually need the product. The number 50% evokes a sense of urgency and bargain hunting, leading us to make decisions that are often driven by emotion, not rational thought. This is a classic example of how numbers influence consumer behavior, often bypassing the logical decision-making process and appealing to our emotional need for a good deal. Marketers also use round numbers in their strategies, such as pricing an item at $10,000 or $100. These numbers feel solid and trustworthy, creating a perception of stability and security. The power of a round number lies in its ability to evoke a sense of completeness and certainty, as opposed to more arbitrary numbers that may feel less predictable or reliable. The hidden forces behind financial decisions numbers also play a significant role in our financial decision-making, from how we manage our savings to the choices we make about debt and investments. The financial world is driven by numbers, and small changes in those numbers can have a profound impact on our sense of security and future planning. For example, take the concept of interest rates. Whether it's the interest rate on a credit card, mortgage, or savings account, these numbers shape our financial decisions in significant ways. Small changes in interest rates can influence how we approach savings and spending. If interest rates on savings accounts rise by just a fraction, we may feel more inclined to put money away for the future. Similarly, if credit card interest rates increase, we might rethink our spending habits or consider paying down existing debt faster. These small numerical shifts can influence our financial mindset and future planning, guiding us to act in ways that can have long-term consequences. The concept of compounding interest is another powerful example of how numbers shape our understanding of wealth. The principle of compounding, where interest is earned not only on the original investment, but also on the accumulated interest, can turn small investments into significant amounts of money over time. This principle is often used to encourage long-term thinking, yet it can also be used to manipulate behavior in ways that benefit financial institutions, as consumers may not fully comprehend the exponential power of compound growth. The influence of numbers in our personal lives and relationships. In our personal lives, the influence of numbers extends beyond finances and consumer decisions. Numbers also shape how we perceive relationships, success, and achievement. For example, how do we measure success? Many people tend to associate success with a specific number, whether it's the amount of money they earn, the number of promotions they've received, or the number of followers they have on social media. These numbers become markers of achievement, giving us a tangible way to measure our progress and success. However, this reliance on numbers can lead to unhealthy comparisons and distorted perceptions of success. For instance, the number of followers on Instagram or Twitter is often seen as a reflection of personal value or social worth. This can be harmful, as it creates a false narrative that our self-worth is tied to numbers that are out of our control or dependent on external validation. The pressure to meet certain numerical standards can also be seen in relationships. The right number of dates, the ideal number of years in a relationship, or the number of romantic gestures expected can shape our expectations and cause undue stress. These expectations can prevent us from embracing the true quality of a relationship, focusing instead on reaching specific milestones that may not be meaningful in the long term. Challenging the influence of numbers. Finding balance. While numbers undeniably hold power, the key to breaking free from their control lies in recognizing their influence and challenging their grip on our decision-making. It's important to become aware of how we use numbers to define our self-worth, success, and happiness. Becoming more mindful of the influence of numbers allows us to make more informed decisions without being driven by arbitrary figures or external expectations. For example, rather than focusing on the number of likes on a post or the number of followers on social media, we can shift our focus to meaningful connections, personal growth, and self-validation. In finance, we can focus on building healthy savings habits and financial security, rather than obsessing over the number in our bank account. By focusing on the quality of our decisions rather than the quantity of numbers, we can create a more balanced, fulfilling life. The role of numbers in defining success. In the modern world, we are constantly bombarded with numbers that define success. From the number of followers on social media to the salary on our paychecks, numbers have become the yardsticks by which we measure our value. These metrics dominate our lives, dictating how we see ourselves and others. We compare ourselves to these numbers, believing that if we hit the right targets, we'll finally feel successful and fulfilled. Take, for example, the obsession with wealth. Many people tie their sense of achievement to their financial status, believing that a higher income or a bigger bank balance equals success. The more zeros on the paycheck, the more successful the person is perceived to be. But what happens when we place all our worth in these numbers? Does hitting a financial target automatically bring happiness or fulfillment? The reality is, many people who reach the top of their financial goals find themselves still dissatisfied, seeking something deeper, more meaningful than just numerical success. The pressure of achievement numbers. This constant pursuit of numbers, whether they represent wealth, social status, or personal achievements, creates immense pressure. It forces people into a constant race for higher scores, bigger paychecks, and more likes on their social media posts. The danger is that this pursuit often comes at the expense of genuine happiness and personal well-being. People begin to equate their value with their achievements, and when those numbers don't meet expectations, they feel inadequate and lost. This psychological phenomenon is prevalent in our education systems as well. The number on a test, the grade on a report card, or the amount of homework completed can seem like the ultimate indicator of worth and future success. But when students, especially young ones, start to see their entire identity tied to a score, it fosters an environment of stress and anxiety. These students may feel that their value lies in a number, not in their effort, creativity, or personality. The impact on mental health can be profound, with many people growing up thinking that they must achieve specific numbers to feel worthy. The power of numerical milestones in personal development. Despite the drawbacks of relying on numbers for success, there are instances where numerical milestones can be powerful tools for personal growth. Tracking progress in small, achievable goals allows us to measure our growth and stay motivated. Whether it's hitting a fitness goal like walking 10,000 steps a day or achieving a certain amount of savings, numerical targets can provide structure and clarity. The key is in how we approach these numbers. If we set realistic and meaningful targets, they can act as a guide to self-improvement. For instance, instead of focusing solely on the number on the scale, we can track our health progress in a more holistic way, looking at things like strength, energy levels, and mental clarity. In this way, numbers are used to guide us toward overall well-being rather than focusing on arbitrary benchmarks that might not reflect true growth. The psychological impact of numbers on self-perception numbers also play a significant role in how we perceive ourselves. We are wired to quantify and categorize our lives, and this includes our personal achievements and failures. The number on the scale, the grade on a test, or the size of our paycheck becomes a mirror to our self-worth. This can be empowering if the numbers align with our self-perception, but it can also be damaging if they don't. For example, someone who constantly chases the next milestone, whether it's a promotion at work or a certain number of social media followers, might feel incomplete or inadequate if they don't meet these goals. As a result, self-worth becomes tied to external validation, which is often shallow and fleeting. This reliance on external metrics leaves individuals constantly seeking validation, leading to emotional instability and burnout. The role of numbers in shaping our perception of time numbers also play a significant role in how we view and manage time. Time is perhaps the most powerful and ubiquitous number in our lives, and it affects how we perceive the passage of our days, our goals, and even our mortality. The ticking of the clock is an ever-present reminder that time is finite, and the number of hours in a day often dictates how we structure our lives. From deadlines to age milestones, the numbers attached to time shape our choices and our sense of urgency. In many cultures, time is quantified and measured in strict units: seconds, minutes, hours, days, weeks, months, and years. This precise division of time has allowed us to organize our lives with efficiency, but it has also led to anxiety and stress. The pressure to make the most of every minute is constant, and we are often led to believe that success is defined by how much we can accomplish within a certain time frame. The idea of time running out creates a sense of urgency that drives many people to push themselves harder, to work more, to achieve more, to accomplish more in the limited hours available. But in reality, time is subjective, and its passing is not always the same for everyone. While some individuals thrive under tight deadlines, others may feel overwhelmed and paralyzed by time. The number of years we live becomes the ultimate measurement of our life's success. Yet the truth is, we can often find more meaning in the quality of our experiences than in the quantity of time spent. The paradox of quantity and quality in our lives. There's a strange paradox in the way numbers affect our lives. We are constantly measuring quantity, but quality is often more important. Consider how people often chase numbers, whether it's the number of hours spent working, the number of social connections they have, or the number of possessions they accumulate. The desire to accumulate more often overshadows the need for deeper, more meaningful experiences. For instance, success in the workplace is often measured by output, the number of tasks completed, hours worked, or targets met. But how many of us have ever felt truly fulfilled by meeting these numerical goals? The quality of the work, or the impact it has on others, often goes unnoticed, as the focus shifts entirely to the number of tasks completed. Similarly, in relationships, we often measure success by the number of friends, followers, or likes we receive on social media. The more friends we have, the more connections we make, the more popular we feel. But the depth of connection, the quality of time spent with loved ones, and the authenticity of our relationships are more significant in fostering true happiness and emotional well-being. The fixation on quantity, whether in work, relationships, or personal achievements, often leads to discontent, as we fail to realize that the value of our experiences is not in their number, but in their quality and meaning. Numbers and the illusion of control, letting go of perfection. As much as we might try to control our lives through numbers, the truth is that control is an illusion. The more we try to measure and perfect every aspect of our lives, the more we risk missing out on life's unpredictable beauty. This is especially evident when we become obsessed with perfection. We seek the perfect number, whether it's the perfect weight, the perfect salary, or the perfect number of social interactions. And in doing so, we lose sight of the bigger picture. Many people tie their happiness to numerical perfection. The ideal weight on the scale, the dream number in their bank account, or the perfect number of steps taken per day. But this pursuit often leads to frustration, stress, and a feeling of inadequacy. Life is not meant to be lived according to a fixed number. Instead of chasing perfect numerical targets, we can find more joy in embracing imperfection and appreciating the spontaneity of life. By letting go of the need for perfect numbers, we can focus more on what truly matters, our well-being, relationships, and personal fulfillment. This shift allows us to appreciate the moments in life that are not quantifiable and reminds us that happiness is found not in achieving perfect numbers, but in creating a life that feels authentic, meaningful, and fulfilling. The path to a balanced life, using numbers wisely. While numbers undoubtedly shape our lives in significant ways, it is up to us to determine how we interact with them. Numbers are tools, not rulers. The key is learning to use them wisely, as guides, not absolutes. By setting meaningful, flexible goals and appreciating the inherent value of experiences, we can free ourselves from the pressure of constantly measuring success through numbers alone. Rather than focusing solely on achieving specific numbers, we should focus on building resilience and personal growth. In relationships, this means fostering deep connections and investing time in people who bring joy and meaning into our lives. In work, it means finding satisfaction in doing meaningful work, not just in completing a list of tasks. Ultimately, the journey to a balanced life is about redefining success. It's about recognizing that life is more than a set of numbers. It's a collection of moments, experiences, and emotions that cannot always be captured through a numerical lens. Numbers should guide us, but not dictate us. The illusion of perfection in a numbers-driven world. We live in a world obsessed with perfection, an ideal that is, ironically, unattainable. We are constantly measuring our worth and success by numbers that hold no real value in defining who we are or what we stand for. In pursuit of perfection, we often lose sight of the true essence of happiness and self-worth. The idea that our lives can be perfectly measured through numbers creates an environment of constant comparison and pressure. Take the example of the social media age, where we measure our worth by the number of followers or likes we accumulate. Every post, Every photo, every interaction is weighed by these numbers, and we start to believe that our value is directly tied to these numbers. This creates a perception of validation, but it is not real. It's based on an arbitrary metric that fluctuates with every interaction. Similarly, in our professional lives, we often measure success by the number of promotions, awards, or raises we receive. The more we climb the corporate ladder, the more we equate our achievements to personal value. But, as many successful people have discovered, happiness isn't defined by the number of accolades, but by the fulfillment we derive from our work and how it aligns with our values. The power of meaningful success. The idea of measuring success through numbers creates a false narrative of fulfillment. True happiness and personal success are found not in the quantity of achievements, but in the quality of those achievements and the impact they have on our lives and the lives of others. Success is not about how much we have, it's about how much we give. It's not about how many things we achieve. It's about how meaningful those achievements are. For example, a person who has climbed the corporate ladder and amassed wealth may still feel an emptiness inside if they have sacrificed personal happiness or meaningful relationships along the way. On the other hand, someone who works in a field they're passionate about, contributing to a cause they believe in, may feel a deep sense of fulfillment, even without the external markers of success. The key lies in connecting with our deeper purpose and finding satisfaction in the work we do, rather than focusing solely on achieving numbers that society has deemed as successful. The impact of numbers on our emotional and mental health. The pressure to meet societal expectations based on numbers can have a damaging effect on our mental and emotional health. Many people experience anxiety, stress, and depression as a result of constantly measuring themselves against unattainable ideals. Whether it's trying to reach an ideal weight, accumulating wealth, or meeting career milestones, the relentless pursuit of these numbers can lead to feelings of inadequacy, frustration, and burnout. The mental health crisis in today's society can be partially attributed to this obsession with perfection. The numbers, be they followers, savings, or performance reviews, become the measuring sticks for how we evaluate our success and worth. When we fail to achieve these numerical targets, we may feel that we are failing in life, when in reality, our personal growth cannot be captured by numbers. True growth is internal. It's about developing emotional resilience, building meaningful relationships, and fostering self-compassion. In mental health circles, there's an increasing recognition that well-being is not about achieving a perfect score, but about being able to cope with life's challenges and find balance in the chaos. The number of therapy sessions someone attends, for example, doesn't reflect their emotional well-being. It's the quality of those sessions and the personal progress they make in managing their mental health that matters most. The paradox of overworking and its impact on life satisfaction. Another common way that numbers influence our lives is through the culture of overwork. In many societies, there is an implicit belief that more hours worked equals more productivity and, by extension, greater success. However, this approach has serious consequences. The pursuit of success through sheer work can lead to exhaustion, stress, and a lack of fulfillment. Many people work long hours, sacrificing their personal lives and well-being, believing that success is about how much they can produce. But constant overwork does not lead to long-term happiness or satisfaction. In fact, studies show that overwork can lead to a higher risk of burnout, poor physical health, and a disconnection from personal goals. The balance between work and life is crucial for mental and physical well-being. Instead of measuring our success by the number of hours worked, we should focus on the value we create in those hours and how they align with our personal goals. A person who works fewer hours, but spends those hours working on something meaningful to them, may feel more satisfied and successful than someone who works excessively, yet feels disconnected from their true passions. Embracing the freedom of letting go of perfection. As we continue our journey through the influence of numbers, it becomes clear that true fulfillment does not lie in the pursuit of numerical perfection. The constant striving for an ideal, whether it's the perfect body, perfect career, or perfect relationships, creates an invisible prison of expectations. To break free from this cycle, we must learn to embrace imperfection. There's freedom in accepting that life is unpredictable and that perfection is unattainable. When we stop measuring our worth by arbitrary numbers, we start to realize that happiness comes not from achieving an ideal, but from living authentically. Letting go of the idea of perfect numbers allows us to embrace the imperfect beauty of the journey. Success isn't a destination with a final number attached. It's about the process, the growth, and the joy found in each step along the way. This shift in perspective is vital for our emotional well-being. When we stop defining ourselves by numbers, whether it's income, followers, or social status, we can start living life on our own terms. Self-compassion becomes the true measure of success as we learn to accept ourselves, flaws, and all. The pressure to achieve numerical perfection fades when we focus on genuine connections, personal fulfillment, and mental peace. The transformative power of shifting. Focus. One of the most profound changes we can make is shifting the focus from external numbers to internal values. When we stop measuring success by the numbers that others deem important, we open ourselves up to a deeper, more authentic experience of life. We begin to appreciate the moments that cannot be quantified, the joy of spending time with loved ones, the pleasure of pursuing a passion, and the peace of mind that comes from letting go of the constant chase for external approval. This shift does not mean that numbers are irrelevant. Numbers can still serve as useful tools, especially when they are tied to goals that reflect our true aspirations. But instead of allowing numbers to define us, we can use them as guides, measuring progress toward personal growth, health, and happiness, not as the ultimate goal. By reducing the pressure to meet external standards, we begin to experience greater freedom and emotional resilience. For example, in personal finance, we can focus less on accumulating wealth for the sake of wealth and more on building financial security that aligns with our values. The goal becomes financial independence, not simply amassing a number on a bank statement. Similarly, in fitness, the focus shifts from reaching a specific number on the scale to becoming stronger, healthier, and more balanced. The importance of quality. Over quantity in life's achievements. We often find ourselves measuring success by how much we do, but in reality, the quality of what we do is far more important. Whether it's the quality of our work, the depth of our relationships, or the experiences we create, these elements define our lives far more profoundly than any numerical benchmark could. Consider the difference between quality time and simply spending time. We all have the same number of hours in a day, but how we use that time, what we prioritize, who we spend it with, and how we feel in the moment shapes our well-being. A quick fix or a fleeting achievement might look good on paper, but the true richness of life is often found in the depth of our experiences. When we focus on quality over quantity, we begin to feel a deeper sense of satisfaction and meaning in everything we do. In relationships, for instance, the number of friends or social connections we have does not necessarily equate to happiness. The depth and authenticity of those connections, whether we have one deep friendship or many acquaintances, holds far more weight in our overall life satisfaction. Liberating ourselves from the numbers. One of the most liberating steps we can take is to disconnect from the numbers game. Whether it's our weight, bank account, or social media metrics, these numbers often tell us less about who we are and more about how we've been conditioned to measure success. When we begin to detach our self-worth from numbers, we open ourselves up to true freedom. Freedom to be imperfect, freedom to prioritize joy, and freedom to choose authenticity over perfection. Letting go of the numbers means focusing on what truly brings us joy and fulfillment. It means embracing the imperfections that make us human and recognizing that life's richness lies in the moments we experience, not in the numbers we collect. By embracing this mindset, we find that our sense of self-worth becomes rooted in who we are, rather than in the quantifiable metrics that society often imposes on us. Reclaiming our identity beyond numbers. At the end of the day, the ultimate question is, who are we without the numbers? Who are we when we stop relying on external validation and start defining ourselves from within? The answer lies in recognizing that our identity is not tied to a number. It is tied to our values, actions, and experiences. By reclaiming our identity beyond the metrics, we begin to step into a life that is more fulfilling, more connected, and more aligned with our true self. We begin to appreciate the meaning in our experiences, not just the numbers on a scale or in a bank account. True success is not found in the numbers. It's found in the way we choose to live and the way we show up for ourselves and others every single day.